women's lives. She lives, survives, and thrives in Nashville, Tennessee, so thank you, Kenny, for letting us be able to fly her down here. She lives with her husband and her son over there. She's also my stepdaughter and one of the strongest women that I know. Ashley.
October brings pink. It brings awareness for breast cancer. I've always thought of my Oma around this time. She was a fighter, a role model, and the very best friend a granddaughter could have. Breast cancer ended her life. She fought it and won, but ultimately it came back aggressively. By the time we were aware of her tumors, it was too late. She would never be the same again, and we would never be the same either. On May 30th, she lost her battle. Almost 4 months later, on September 22nd, 2017, I was diagnosed with a rare type of breast cancer. I still don't know if I was more scared after watching her fight or scared because she couldn't answer the phone to comfort me. Hi, I'm Ashley LaFont. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm 29 years old. I'm a wife, mother, and most recently, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm honored to be here today with you guys. There have been 100 valleys in the days since I was told you have cancer. That was 384 days ago, and I still feel like this could not really happen to me. Last October was not pink, it wasn't joyful. I was mad, scared, intimidated, and unsure of what my future held. This October, I'm standing taller than ever. I'm very educated, I'm aware, and I'm strong. I'd like to share my story with you. My husband was away on a work trip in China. The day he left, I was to return to my doctor if I still had a lump present. I had ignored this lump for longer than I cared to admit. My body developed an infection around it, making it just impossible to ignore any longer. The week prior to this, I went to be seen and was placed on antibiotics in hopes it was an infection of some sort. He told me to return on Monday if any traces of the lump were still there. Well, the lump simmered down. It wasn't painful any longer. It wasn't quite as intrusive, but yet it was still there. So here I sat in an exam room trying to keep my then 22-month-old entertained. I was told I needed additional tests ran. The weeks following, I underwent several biopsies, ultrasounds, met a breast surgeon, and I had an MRI. The day my husband came home was a Friday. His plane landed at 5:15 p.m., and at 4:44, I was told I had breast cancer. I know the exact time because I was driving on the interstate when the phone rang. The call only lasted a few minutes, and when I hung up the phone, I told myself, you have 30 minutes, just keep it together, stuck it out, and I stared at my baby asleep in the back seat. I greeted my husband, completely falling into his arms, and I didn't even have to say the words. He knew. To be honest, the days following this are really hard to recall. I started documenting everything and eventually went on to create a blog. I can read over them and still not remember exactly how I felt in between the time of my diagnosis and the day of my surgery. To read those now only defeats the purpose of the person I am today. Then I was a rookie to the entire world of cancer. Unfortunately now, I'm a seasoned vet. The game plan was laid out in front of me. I was too young to be considered for a single mastectomy. My tumor was too large for a lumpectomy, so I was to have bilateral mastectomies with tissue expanders placed to stretch the muscles after the surgery in hopes that my body would one day be able to support implants again. By this time, I had become a familiar face in the breast surgeon's office, and I now had a plastic surgeon. I can recall 3 days looking back at this time. The day my MRI flagged an involved lymph node, and the day I told someone that I had cancer for the first time, as well as the day before my surgery when I realized exactly what I was about to lose. My MRI flagged a lymph node, so here I go to yet another biopsy appointment that would come up negative. You'll see why soon I can't be more enthusiastic about that news. Here's a little hint, cancer sucks. The day before I scheduled my mammogram was a week before my bilateral mastectomies, yet they feel it was still necessary to give me one last squeeze. The woman I spoke with was was incredibly rude while trying to get my appointment time and even mocked my situation simply because of my date of birth. In my head, I was fuming, and on the outside, I was completely melting. When she asked why I needed a mammogram at my age, I felt the entire spirit leave my body as the words, "I have breast cancer," came out. I still remember her changing her tune quickly, but still to this day, I've never let it go. And there's the day I let myself cry. Just a word of advice: if you're gonna lose it about having cancer, choose a different place other than Panera. My dad had come into town for surgery, and I felt like it was any other day. That is until we went to eat lunch, and I suddenly just became completely overwhelmed. I felt like I was losing it. I was losing both of my breasts. This intimate part of me was forever going to be gone. Although in some sense they had betrayed me, these were mine. They nursed my beautiful baby boy, and they made me feel so attractive in many ways. After tomorrow, I wondered if I would be the same. Knowing I could never nurse again, would my babies be healthy? Could I have more babies? And when was I going to be able to pick the baby I have up now? Needless to say, those were not pretty tears shed in that bowl of chili. Surgery day came, and then it went. In those 7 hours of operating, the tumor had grown to be over 8 centimeters in diameter and was removed. I was given my cancerversary date of October 25th. I don't recall much after waking up until the next day. My husband, he was immediately hands-on and did my drape hair as well as my hair brushing. I still had long hair then, which is ironic because I wasn't able to brush it myself for some time. As soon as I gained full mobility back from my surgery, my hair was gone. The results from my surgery were that no nodes were involved, but remember, cancer has never played fair. 4 days after my surgery, my son was able to come back home. I was off of all my payments, and I was feeling like I could finally be okay. The next night, he returned home. I had a hematoma rupture on my left side. This was supposed to be my well-mannered, behaved side, but yet in many ways, this was my scariest night yet. My left breast swelled up to the size of a bowling ball in a matter of minutes. My drains that were hanging from my sides were overfilled with blood, and my plastic surgeon would not answer the phone. As I received a call back from our breast surgeon, she calmly told me to go to the ER. My husband was frazzled, scared, and my son was quickly catching on to these vibes. So after a minute of momming and getting everyone in the car calmly, I, in return, started to panic. By the time we got there, I was telling them that I was sure my decisions had ruptured because I had just been through a major surgery 4 days prior. Although my adrenaline kept me from feeling everything, I had lost a lot of blood. I woke up the next day in the hospital. My son was back at my mother's, and I was in more pain than ever before. Thankfully, my surgeon was able to go in and find the bleed. I'm told that almost never happens, but somewhere between me blacking out and the next day, I was able to tell him where the swelling started. After this night, you'd think I'd seen the worst. My post-op appointment with my breast surgeon brought the news that my cancer, once thought to be non-invasive and contained, had spread. The nodes that kept coming up negative did not fool her. Thank God. She had them checked again just one last time, and that decision was so crucial. Had they not found the microscopic cancer cells in my lymph nodes, I would have never had chemotherapy, and I would still be housing chemo cells in my body today. She saved my life by checking that one final time. I would meet my oncologist next, but not before I would experience my little boy turning 2 years old. I was not able to hug him, hold him, or decorate for his birthday party. All of the things that always seemed the most important, like homemade cake and cute decorations and an insane amount of pictures, were all suddenly nothing. I just wanted to be able to pick him up. Instead, I was trying to hide the many drains I had hanging from my sides. And this is how I'll always remember my Liam turning 2. Cancer stole this day from me forever. The oncologist visit was, of course, a complete drag. Not only did I get a bombshell of 1 year of treatment, rounds of radiation, I'm told that I may never have children again. He set up a timeline for me that included IV, port, and then chemo. This was anything but simple. I was thrown into this entire process so quickly that I didn't process it all until afterwards. I was not able to have many feelings about it, and looking back, I guess that was a good thing. IVF was really intense, but it was very successful for me. I have a sure shot at trying for another baby one day, whether I'm able to keep my ovaries in the future or not. During this time, I also got my first haircut. I cut it to my chins in hopes that when I lost it, it would be easier on me. The night of my port surgery was an emotional night. I knew that this port was there to pump poison into my body. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with lymph node dissection, but once it works, once they take lymph nodes, you can no longer do much of anything to that side of your body. So no blood pressure, especially no needle pokes. So IVF was an adventure with my one arm. In a lot of ways, this port was supposed to bring me relief. During that time, I waited to start chemo. My expanders were filled, and that did help my confidence some. Chemo number 1 started on December 6th. My regimen was Taxotere, carboplatin, Herceptin, and Perjeta. My official diagnosis was Ashley LaFont, 730-89, invasive ductal carcinoma, stage 2B. And I was at the oncologist's office for over 11 hours that day. This was my life now. I was fighting back, but in return feeling like an alien had invaded my body. 2 days following, I understood how taxing this would be on my husband and myself. There's no way to describe the pain that chemo brought me. My body hurt, my bones hurt, everything hurt. There's a list a mile long of the things I would rather do than ever experience that pain again. One night in particular, after getting violently sick, I just laid on the bathroom floor. I remember thinking, I'm not gonna make it through this. This is gonna kill me. Would my son remember this? I pray he doesn't remember this. If that's the case, is he going to remember me? My husband had to pick me up and carry me back to bed that night. My hair was due to fall out on Christmas morning. I was determined to be in control of this part. My friends hosted a head shaving party for me. My husband and my brother shaved their heads alongside me. My son helped shave my head. I thought this would help him cope with the new normal of things. It turned out that he didn't care if his mommy had hair or not. He just wanted me to live. So with that, I did. I took the weekends off during chemo, and my son went for a slumber party at Grandma's. By the time he returned, I was his superhero again. I tried not to miss a beat. Cancer took a lot of things from my family, but with that, it brought a new way of life. I danced when I felt good and learned to live with a different set of rules. I realized fast that complaining wouldn't help a thing, and sometimes if I pretended enough to be okay, I was. Chemo ended for me on March 22nd. Since then, I'm happy to report I've never been stronger, more active, and more appreciative of hair than I am in this very moment. After chemo ended, I met with a radiation oncologist. He was old-fashioned and to the point, and the entire process of radiation terrified me. He laid the game plan out, told me what to expect as best he could, and I had my appointment to be mapped and measured. This day, I said goodbye to normal showers and baths for months. The stickers that they placed on my chest would later tear my skin off, although at the time I had no clue. In preparation for radiation, I also had to see a plastic surgeon. He took all the fills out of my left breast in order to target my right side. It wasn't until then that I realized how much I lost back in October. My chest was a sunken hole without these rock-hard expanders I had grown to hate so much. During radiation, I began running. I've always wanted to be a runner. I was told I could lose lung capacity during radiation, so I figured now was as good a time as any. I became better each day and used it to take my mind off the process. I finished radiation on June 1st, 2018. This was a big relief for me. I was coming all by myself every single day for over 8 weeks. With finishing this treatment, I brought my reoccurrence recurrence rates down to less than 5%. I was able to get my expanders filled back up, which came with more challenges, but I was also able to start discussing possible surgery dates for my last and final major surgery of implant reconstruction. The day I received my reconstruction date, I cried. I wrote it on my calendar 14 times. Part of me was so relieved to be at this part already, and the other part of me was just waiting for something crazy to happen. On July 25th, 5 days before my 29th birthday, I underwent surgery to have implants placed where my tissue expanders once were. I was also able to receive fat grafting from my thighs to blend in the implants, which turned out to be more painful than expected, but still a breeze compared to chemo. Everything will always be a breeze compared to chemo. Currently, I'm undergoing treatment of Perjeta and Herceptin still. These two drugs are targeted therapy drugs used to teach my body to fight cancer cells should they ever return. This is one of those that's funded by the American Cancer Society. Without this treatment, more than likely my cancer would return. My cancer was not hormone receptor positive, but I did carry a gene that makes my cancer cells grow more aggressively, known as HER2. I have 3 rounds left of 18 immunotherapies to add to my 5 surgeries, 32 rounds of radiation, 6 rounds of chemo, and countless scars. But I won. In 2 weeks, I will be 1 year free of breast cancer.
Amen.
My team of doctors were from another world in Nashville. I never felt alone, and I trusted them all from the very start. I can't say enough about the support system that I had during this time and that we still have right now. Our families truly are rock star status. They helped greatly with medical bills, brought food to our homes, and were encouraging the entire way. I found new friendships within our family and became more aware of just how loved we were. My mother kept my son for every weekend of chemo. Every single time I had chemotherapy, so my husband could care for me and my son didn't have to see his mom hurt. My mom knew that that's what I needed the most. And so she made it happen without question. My dad flew to me every single chance he got, made sure that we were never buried in bills. Him being there just watching bad Matt Damon movies on the couch were better than laying in bed. Whatever they could do to make it easier, they did. And most days, they were why I fought. As a parent, I could never fathom having to watch my son battle cancer. I knew my parents felt helpless as I'm their only little girl. I knew it was my time to shine, to show them what I was made of, and to show them how they taught me to be a warrior. It was important for me to show them that I was going to be okay because I know that they truly needed to know that. I know today that they're proud, and to me being proud will always outweigh being scared. I can only hope that if my son ever has to face cancer, that he can handle it with grace and become stronger of it because of it. And I hope that's something I can continue to teach him. You'll learn from your battles if you let them teach you. My husband, he's just incredibly, without a doubt, in love with every inch of me. He was patient when he didn't know how to be and took every meltdown simply because he knew I needed it. Words will never be able to describe how amazing he was for me. He's always been my best friend, but to know that he's seen me at my worst and loved me even harder is something that real life fairy tales are made of. Because of cancer, we're invincible. So I stand here today a different person than I was a year ago. Cancer changed me. And as much as I would like to say I'm better because of it, I don't know that to be true. I've done my very best to find positives and strengthen myself through this battle of mine. But I'm forever changed because I was a chosen one. I would have never chose this life had I gotten to say so, but I didn't get that right. And for whatever reason, I feel like I'm supposed to experience this. I feel my life has been more impacted by cancer than most. I've lost my Oma, and I continue to watch my granny fight today as she's slowly losing her battle. And I myself have the scars to show that I know cancer's name. I often wonder if I will always be worried about the future, what kind of mom I would have been, or how my husband still manages to stand beside me so firmly. I can tell you one thing, I'm very grateful that I'm here, and I'll continue to find my new normal in a world that never stopped. Thank you.